Hi, this is Frank with our latest and greatest excursion into metaphysics. However, this brief show will not be so much about metaphysics itself, but me, I guess, in that if I was watching this and I would be wondering, what qualifies this guy to talk about such a subject. There is no governing body that I know of that grants degrees in metaphysics. I don't know, there might be, but not that I'm aware of. And universities certainly don't give degrees in them. So I think it's more of a state of mind, because once again, metaphysics, or is above and beyond. It's the question of what is reality. I went through all through high school chemistry. High school and college. I'm sorry. I went through all the traditional science and technology classes, and I don't know where this came from, but I was of the questioning mindset right from the beginning. I understood totally what I was being taught in chemistry, biology, math, sciences. I would keep looking at it and saying, I don't know, as a human being, I think I sit there and I think to myself, everything comes from somewhere, and when you get into the order of the sciences, and all the laws, and especially in physics, and chemistry, where did this come from? It would come to the point where I would say, there's got to be thought behind this. This just didn't happen. I found that impossible to believe. And I'm applying another science, or another math, I guess you call it, called logic. I personally look at the universe, and I look up on the sky on a starry night. I'm looking at stars that light left those stars billions of years ago, and I look at the universe. I think, where did this come from? It didn't happen by itself. I find that impossible to believe. It just makes no sense. My question, maybe it has something to do with the era I grew up in. I grew up in the '60s. Questioned everything, and maybe that's where it came from. Though I knew lots of students who would never have questioned anything, but I did. It started early. When my first thing was I was going to be a chemist. Oh God, I love chemistry. It still is. I love it still. It's still my first love. And not until my senior year in high school, when I met electronics, did I find something I loved even more. Or at least I was better at it. In chemistry, I was always good at it. I had to work at it. Electronics, I did. It was when I took an electronics class in my senior year in high school, I knew instantly that this was my calling. In addition, for the time, it was the world was just becoming very electronic, and I knew that if I get into this for my life's work, I'm going to never have to worry about a career. Which certainly, in that regard, it's been one of the wisest decisions I ever made. It started in chemistry, and with the elements. And I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna show one. I think I showed this to you before. I'm gonna draw a nucleus of an atom, and I'm gonna use. I'm gonna just use. Matter of fact, I think we'll use helium. There's the atom of helium. Is it? And it's got 2 protons, 2 electrons going around it. Simple as can be. That's helium. It's a gas. If we add one more proton, and it would actually be another shell, one more electron, now we have lithium, which is the lightest metal. I blew my chemistry teacher away. I was one of the few, or maybe the only one, that said, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I have a problem with this. If the fact that we go from 2 to 3, protons and go from 2 to 3 electrons, we have a totally different substance. They're made of the same thing. Protons, electrons. There's no difference. Protons are protons, electrons are electrons. So it's the number of protons in the nucleus, the number of electrons circling, which determines the element. I'm the one that asks why. If lithium had something different in the nucleus and something different going on around it, that would make sense. The fact that it's just the number of electrons going around and the number of protons in the nucleus that determines whether it's a gas, it's a metal, it's a whatever, it still bothers me. It doesn't make sense, because what that means is everything is made of the same thing. I've said it before. Hi, buddy. I've said it. You know, you and I and the street that you drive on are made of the same exact things, because we are. Protons, electrons, and neutrons. That's it. That's all there is. Don't get me wrong. It gets much more complicated than that, because protons, electrons, and neutrons are actually made of different subatomic particles. We're not going to get into that. Don't need to. But this just bothers me. And then one time, for example, I was taking an anatomy and physiology class, which I've had several. Actually, I've had 3. Because I have a deep curiosity about that. And the instructor was talking about the fact that the left and right brain hemispheres. The left, I know it's going to be opposite when you look at me. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. The right side controls the left side, and those fibers cross the medulla oblongata at the base of your brain. And so he says, I knew this already. This was not a revelation to me. But what I did is I raised my hand. I said, Professor, question on this. And he goes, yes. He goes, I said, why? Why is that? Why is it that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body and vice versa? It's been my experience that whatever, in my study of the human body, especially the physiology and the anatomy, that whatever is designed with a purpose. It's that way for a reason. And I cannot think of a reason for this. I just can't comprehend one. I can't think of it. And he looked at me and he said, he had a blank look on his face. And he said, I don't know what I'm more disgusted by. The fact that I don't have the question to that answer, or I never even thought of the question myself. So he says, you know what? I know several very prominent neurologists, and I'm going to ask them that and see what they come up with. So this was a Saturday only class, and I came back, and the next Saturday we met, and he pulled me to the side and he goes, I tell you what, you got them. They don't know. They never even thought of that. The why. So that's myself. That's where I've always got into the. I think, why is this? Why is the case? Why is it this way? There's an answer. I just don't know what it is. I'd love the challenge of it. If any of you can come up with an answer for this, please let me know, because I sure as hell can't think of one. I even got into a discussion once about evolution. Say what you will about evolution. I know there's a lot of fundamental Christians that are totally against it. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but evolution exists and I can prove it. Not in the way that you think, though. If you were my age or older, you've seen it in action. Back 60, 70 years ago or longer now, when penicillin was first developed, we had no tools against bacteria except our natural defenses in our bodies. penicillin became quite the tool against it and saved many, many lives. No question of this. Uh, but what happened is it got obviously way overused. I remember my oldest son at one point in the mid 80s, he was giving, he had almost permanent ear infections, and he was giving that pink stuff. And he was almost on intravenous penicillin, and his body finally revolted. And he got a condition called purpura, where it's bleeding under the skin, looks like bruises, and because his body was reacted against against being on almost continuous penicillin. But see, here's the thing: penicillin, you have to know how it operates, and what it does is it makes the bacteria makes it impossible for them to reproduce. It either disrupts the nucleus of the bacteria, or it disrupts the cell wall, so that stuff can't come in and out, and the cell dies and the bacteria dies. Well, that's fine, and this could be a great benefit, except when you take penicillin, it has you have this flora in you, many bacteria also affects those too. It's a side effect. Many people get diarrhea from it too. I have to say it isn't worth it. But what happened over the years and through use, bacteria was on the verge of being wiped out. And it didn't sit there and go, gee whiz, how do I change so that, it's thinking, and it says, I got to do something to change so I survive. It did it. That's what they call evolution, excuse me, natural selection, or the survival of the fittest. It had to change or it was going to die, which would not have been a good thing. So it changed. It changed its operation of its cell wall, and of its nucleus, such that the bacteria, the penicillins, no longer work. And we've barely been able to keep ahead of that, such that we have penicillins, derivatives of penicillins that still work. For example, if you get bacterial meningitis, as I understand, there's only one. It's called a cocktail, and it's a very potent combination of three of them that is about the only thing that works now, and because everything else has been rendered useless because it was overused. So the bacteria evolved, it changed, so that it could survive. My friends, this is evolution. It's the definition of evolution. And the fact is, the smaller the creature, the more rapid evolution happens. And of course, bacteria is very, very, very small, so it can adapt quite quickly, as opposed to human beings or an elephant. Viruses evolve all the time. That's why every year, you get colds all the time. They're all caused by that, but there will almost never be why don't they have flu shots? Why don't they have cold shots? Because there's about I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of viruses that cause colds, and no two are the same. But the viruses that cause the flu change every year. Yes, you get the injection. Yes, you don't get the flu, but it's different. It's a different flu than it was last year. The virus has mutated. Some go away. Some crop up. Sometimes, and on rare occasions, some super powerful ones come in, like the Spanish flu after World War I, which wiped out a good part of civilization at the time. So, once again, this is the definition of evolution. This is change. Um, so the point I'm trying to make is there's no what makes me qualified to teach something like this. It isn't any degree or diploma on the wall, but it's I try to look for the answers. When we get into the where consciousness comes from, and we're going to look into a lot of different things. There's very little I can prove. Um, the idea, rather, is to just make you wonder yourself. Sometimes with some of this stuff, you look at, once you think about it, you look at the world in a totally different way. You see it through different eyes, is the way to put it. And so, that is my intent. Um, is to get you to think to yourself, wow, I never thought of that. Wow, that's interesting, and maybe change the way you look at some stuff, and that's a good thing. So that's it for this one. Just a little, like I said, just a little bit of description of where I'm coming from, why I am perverted the way I am, and we'll see you on the next show. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, and we will see you soon.